The silence in the Galactic Council chamber lasted exactly 47 seconds after Ambassador Elena Vasquez's footsteps faded into the corridor. Then chaos erupted. What have we done? Chancellor Vexoth's tentacles writhed in distress as the holographic displays continued showing human fleets materializing across the galaxy. The Aquarian leader's bioluminescent patches flickered erratically, a sure sign of panic among his species. Council Chairman Zeftal's crystalline brain processed the implications with horrifying clarity. 3 centuries of galactic stability, built on the foundation of human patience and mediation, was crumbling in real time. His 6 eyes watched helplessly as diplomatic channels throughout the galaxy began going dark. The first crisis alert chimed within minutes. Emergency transmission from the Veil-to Silicon border announced the chamber's AI. Combat has resumed after 97 years of human-mediated ceasefire. Casualty reports incoming. Representative Quilnara, the insectoid Veiltar delegate, clicked her mandibles frantically. Impossible. We maintained that peace for nearly a century, because humans were there to remind you both of the consequences, Zeftal replied grimly. They stationed peacekeeping fleets at every flashpoint, mediated every trade dispute, and absorbed the costs of maintaining neutral zones. Another alert. Then another. The chamber's displays lit up with conflict indicators across dozens of systems, as species that had relied on human intervention to maintain their uneasy truces began reverting to their natural antagonisms. The Korthax representative who had triggered this catastrophe stood frozen, his compound eyes reflecting the red warning lights. This cannot be happening. Humans don't have this kind of military capacity. Apparently they do, wheezed Gornath, the silicon-based delegates whose species communicated through harmonic vibrations. The question is, what do we do about it? As if summoned by his words, every communication screen in the chamber simultaneously activated. Elena Vasquez appeared, but she was no longer alone. Behind her stood figures that made several council members recoil, humans in military uniforms, bearing insignia that no intelligence service had ever catalogued. Honored delegates, Elena's voice carried none of its former diplomatic warmth. I wanted to personally inform you of humanity's immediate withdrawal from all current galactic obligations. The implications hit the Council like a collapsing star. Withdrawal from all obligations. Vexoth's tentacles had gone completely pale. But the trade routes, the Proxima Accords, the neutral zone maintenance. Elena's expression didn't change. Effective immediately, all human-maintained hyperspace beacons will be deactivated. Our merchant marine will cease operations in non-human space. All defensive installations in jointly administered systems will be powered down within 72 hours. Representative Thys, of the Serpentine Alliance, spoke for the first time in decades, her scaled features twisted with disbelief. You cannot simply abandon infrastructure that half the galaxy depends on. We built that infrastructure, replied one of the uniformed humans behind Elena, a woman with admiral's stripes. We maintained it. We defended it, at considerable cost to human resources and lives. Cost that other species seem to view as complementary services. The chamber erupted in panic chatter across multiple species communication methods. Zeftal's enhanced hearing picked up fragments of desperate calculations as delegates began to realize the scope of their dependency on human systems. The Centauri's shipping lanes will collapse without human beacon maintenance, whispered the Avian Concordat's representative. Our colonies in the Outer Rim rely on human defense grids, added another voice. 70% of our interstellar commerce flows through human-administered ports, came a third admission. Elena raised her hand, and the chaos subsided. Furthermore, the Terran Banking Consortium will be freezing all non-essential galactic credit exchanges pending review of our financial exposure to unreliable partners. The economic implications struck the assembly like a physical blow. 3 centuries of interstellar commerce had evolved around human financial systems, human insurance protocols, and human arbitration courts. The humans hadn't just been the galaxy's diplomats, they had been its entire economic backbone. "This is economic warfare," shrieked the Korthak's representative, finally finding his voice. Admiral Chen stepped forward, her smile sharp as a blade. "No, this is economic independence. We're simply no longer subsidizing civilizations that view our contributions as entitlements rather than gifts." Zeftal's worst fears crystallized as new data streamed across his consciousness. Human withdrawal wasn't just military or diplomatic, it was systematic. Medical research sharing terminated. Terraforming technology transfers suspended. Agricultural development programs cancelled. Educational exchanges ended. Wait, Chancellor Vexalth's bioluminescence flickered desperately. "Surely we can negotiate." The Council recognizes that perhaps we have been insufficiently appreciative of human contributions. Elena's laugh was nothing like the warm chuckles that had smoothed over countless diplomatic tensions. Appreciate? Chancellor, the Aquarian Collective alone owes humanity 17 trillion credits in unpaid arbitration fees, spanning the last century. Your species has consistently voted against every proposal to fairly compensate human peacekeeping forces. But those were administrative oversights. No, Elena's voice cut through his protests. Those were conscious decisions based on the assumption that human generosity was infinite and cost-free. Another wave of alerts flooded the chamber as the reality of human withdrawal cascaded across galactic civilization. Stock markets crashed. Trade routes collapsed. Colonial governments declared emergency sessions as their human-dependent infrastructure began failing. "Please," Gornath's harmonic voice cracked with desperation. "Our species has always maintained cordial relations with humanity." "Surely, your species," interrupted Admiral Chen, consulting a datapad, "has a 94% default rate on repaying human disaster relief aid over the past 2 centuries. You received assistance for 7 different natural disasters and paid back approximately 6% of the credits advanced." Gornath's silicon structure dimmed with shame. Elena's image began to fade. "The Council has 72 hours to demonstrate good faith by immediately withdrawing all claims against human territory and beginning repayment of outstanding debts. Otherwise, humanity will consider all previous agreements null and void. And if we cannot meet these demands," Zeftal asked, though he already knew the answer. Elena's smile was colder than the vacuum of space. "Then you'll discover exactly how much of galactic civilization was built on human charity that you mistook for weakness." The transmission ended, leaving the Council in a silence more profound than any they had ever experienced. Outside the chamber's viewports, the first human ships were already disappearing into hyperspace, taking with them 3 centuries of galactic stability. Within 6 hours, the first wars had resumed. Within 12 hours, 3 major trade routes had collapsed. Within 24 hours, 17 colonial governments had declared bankruptcy. The Galactic Council had spent 3 centuries learning to take human patience for granted. Now they would spend however long they had left learning to survive without it.